the book that I'm reading, which is The Righteous Mind, I think it's called, Jonathan Haidt. We've talked about it in the past, but a couple just little factoids that caught my eye. This one related to religion is that there was a guy who did a study of suicide attacks over the last 100 years. And of course, those have taken different forms. They've been bombs, they've been all different kinds of things. And what he found is that those attacks are often more closely related with nationalism than with religiosity.
Okay.
Which means that the way to, if you were just looking at a system, produce a suicide bomber is to put boots on the ground of a foreign entity into someone else's country. It is a response to the homeland being invaded. And it is not a response to drone strikes. It's not a response to like technological. It's a response to...
How do they know that?
Well, I think he's just looking at all of the, okay, there were 30 things here, there were 15 things here, what are the common factors that are underlying all of these.
Got it.
And so certainly there are cases where people who have been drone struck have gone on to do some sort of suicide attack. Well, probably that's the case. But what he's saying is that the stronger correlation is with a nationalism thing that is happening. And then he gives a couple of examples that I can't remember from completely atheistic communities that respond to foreign invaders with, this is what's going to happen. And he says it has more to do with a sense of defilement of the homeland, like these invaders are in, and that's the response. So I thought that was interesting. I don't know if you have any reaction to that. It may or may not. You have to check the primary source.
Well, the only thing, so it's not related to that data, but I do remember watching Rogue One, the Star Wars movie, and really thinking that America wouldn't be the good guys, which was really weird for me because I am in our culture. I grew up, I thought America was the good guys, and we're policing the bad guys of the world, you know, a black and white world that a child lives in. And I was watching this movie about these people who are interfering in other governments and have the massive military advantage against this small team of victims to this empire who are using suicide bombing to try to disrupt the defense of the big guy for an instant to give their other teammates a chance.
Yeah.
And I went, ooh, this is hard to watch as an American.
Yeah, which one are we? Are we the technologically advanced?
We're definitely the evil empire in this. And I was watching, you couldn't make a movie that was more propaganda-y in the name of overthrowing America than that movie, if you tried.
Yeah, it's strange because they go on a suicide mission to stop the evil empire.
Just to weaken our defenses. Just to open up a hole for someone else to then go and do more damage against
and it's
the
romanticized
empire.
And
I was watching this, like, if I had to make a movie that was to teach people to try to overthrow the U.S., it'd look exactly like this.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in a U.S. movie theater watching it with a bunch of Americans going, woo, when they blow up the Empire's shield.
Yeah.
And I just went, do you guys know which one we are? Why are we wooing?
It's interesting that there's always, because I just started some video game. This big dark empire is such a trope in all of these movies. It's literally in this game that I'm playing. And I was like, how did they get all this technology? How did they, what's going on here? Are these like perfectly powerful guys and just ragtag band of rebels got to come in and do the one thing that they can? There's something.
Well, the bigger lesson for me is the Empire thinks they're the good guys.
Yeah, of course.
The Mongols thought they were the good guys. Everybody thinks they're the good guys.
Yes.
On all sides of war.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that the Empire can't be the good guy, right? It does. Who knows? You would have to.
No, having the military advantage doesn't make you the bad guy.
Sure. I
think the truth is there are, in most cases, no bad guys. Just people with different opinions.
Yeah, I think that's tough, and because then you want to have some yardstick by which to, and we've talked about moral relativity, by which to measure things. And
well,
everybody
I think it really depends on when you start measuring for a lot of these wars.
Yeah.
I think if you go, well, we did this because of this.
Let's look at World War II from 1939 to 1945. Who's the bad guy? You go, Germany. Okay, well, let's look at World War II from 1920 to 1935. It's like, we put pretty draconian measures.
Still Germany, because I'm Jewish, but go on.
But you get the idea, because they weren't doing it up until 39. We were putting these draconian measures on their economy. Who's the bad guy for those 15 years?
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying, on a long enough timeline.
And then you go, why were those happening? Because of World War I.
Yeah,
so you go back to World War I, but what caused World War I?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times when you measure from will determine who you think is the protagonist.
Sure. That's an interesting thought, and I guess the goal is to I think, take as far out of a view as you possibly can.
Well, if you do a lot of time, not all the time, there are horrible things happening in the world that are just evil. In a lot of cases, the majority, I'd say, if you zoom out far enough, you realize there aren't necessarily any bad guys. There's just people acting self-interested, and then reactions from other people acting self-interested
and ignorance,
and then they escalate.
I
you know
actually,
what I mean?
yeah, and I think this is one of the scary things is that you can evil fades when you zoom out and you get that far, and that's a scary thing because when you're zoomed in and you see someone who harms a child or who does something terrible, you want there to be evil to explain that. What's scarier is to zoom out and see the abuse that occurred in that person's life.
Well, we could go. So yeah, I mean, this is. We'll take it more personal, less political, less philosophical.
Sure.
So there's these personal development things that you and I like to go to, Landmark, Choice Center, whatever it is. I heard a story of a woman who went to one. She was molested as a child, and they said, you have to forgive this person if you want to move on. She's like, I'm absolutely not. This is an evil, evil person. And then throughout the course of the program, I don't know how, it's very impressive to me, got to the point where she could forgive this person, went and actually confronted them and talked to them, said, I don't want to have any relationship with you, but I do forgive you. And through the course of this, it turns out, that person was horribly abused.
Yep.
And their abuse is not forgivable, but it comes from a mental illness that they received because when they were 6, they were abused. And that doesn't make their actions good. It doesn't. Their actions are still bad. But you also do understand that it comes from a place of mental illness that was inflicted on them by abuse. And so, it's just interesting because in some cases people are evil, but in some cases you just don't understand their story. Yeah.
I think almost the only possible break to that I can think of, and I think that's true of all cases, because even if you go, okay, he's not mentally ill, you're going to find a life circumstance that created that, because we all come out of our life circumstances. The one thing that is strange is when you hear about psychopathy, when you hear about, because this kind of breaks the model. So you hear of these Jeffrey Dahmers who,
but that's what I'm saying is they can't help it either.
Oh, well, I don't even think evil might be the appropriate word, but it's like, this is almost like a death robot. Like, this was a 7-year-old kid who was burning and skinning animals.
That's what I'm saying. No, Ted Bundy's movie, what Ted Bundy did is awful, awful, awful. I almost want to use the term inexcusable, but I'm not sure if that is hypocritical to what I'm about to say, which is he also, it wasn't controllable, I don't think, for him, because it spun out of control. He just wanted to, I think, have a life, but couldn't stop it. And it just spiraled out of control. And his victims deserve to hate him if they want to, and it's inexcusable what he did. But if you were born with his brain, you would have done it too. That's the interesting part. If you were born with his brain in your body, you would have been a passenger as your body did those murders too.
I think this is why I don't believe in free will, because you could just sub out Ted Bundy's brain for my brain or your brain or anybody's.
No, I told you, to the other people, I apply the lack of free will. I told you this. I'll make it short. I got held up at gunpoint by a 15-year-old in Brazil. I don't hate the kid for it. He was born into poverty. He saw me. He saw spoiled, wealthy tourist or whatever, and this is how he survives. And if we were switched and I was a 15-year-old born into a favela, and this was how everyone around me told me I had to survive, I would choose to survive too. I wouldn't starve to death. And so I don't hate the person for it. I don't think he had a choice. I just apply free will to myself because even if it's fake, it's an empowering belief that allows me to be successful and happy.
Got it. Okay. But with other people, you go, and put my brain there, put his brain there.
Well, if I had don't even swap our bodies. If you just took me as an infant, put me in a favela in Brazil, but convinced them for some reason to ignore my skin
even
color.
with your genetics, you would probably still do the same thing.
I'm 15.
Yeah.
I'm not a straight A student getting ready to go to a good college.
Yeah.
That would be remarkable.
Yeah.
This is how they tell you to survive. This is the people you admire, your family, your friends. This is what they're doing. Not to say that some people can't get out, but I don't think that I'm such a remarkable hero that I wouldn't be doing exactly what everybody does to survive in that instance.
And then this is the other thing, and this is kind of why I like Eastern stuff, because it does have an answer for a lot of this. You're even talking about that I'm such a remarkable hero. It breaks down identity. It goes this concept of you as this self-determining center of an otherwise causal universe is just madness. You're just a piece of a machine that is all moving, and you happen to have a radar antenna on this one piece, so you're conscious of the precision of its movements.
No, true, but truly, I had no malice to that kid. I had more malice when some drunk middle-class white guy broke my nose in a parking lot because he wasn't born in a favela. You know what I mean?
But, and this is the tough
His dad
thing.
probably abused him or something. Yeah, when
You
you
don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, you
It's
don't
just
know.
easier for me to empathize with the favela kid, with
It's
with the 15-year-old born into poverty. I'm like, I get it. And I'm sure that the guy whose first reaction to getting drunk is to sucker
swing at a
punch someone
stranger. Yeah.
probably had an abusive dad
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something going on in his life that made him that way. But it's harder for me not to be like,
Well, it's no fun.
Also, fuck
It's no
you.
fun to give up righteous anger. I love righteous anger. You know,
it's a great drug.
It's my favorite.